What is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith with a GSD Mode podcast interview where every single week we interview top real estate agents, top entrepreneurs, and straight up top badasses out there dominating their spaces. These are people choosing to not live a life of mediocrity, but instead to go out there and create big, amazing, epic lives for themselves, for their families, as well as make a big impact on others. And that's why they take time out of their busy day to be here to share all their brilliant knowledge with us. So today, guys, we got a special guest on the show. Dude, I'm so stoked to have on a great personal friend of mine. I've been able to just watch this guy explode. And it's funny, you know, we had a conference that we were at together when that I host for our Mastery alumni members. And, you know, Justino, our guest today, and I were at this happy hour at dinner, you know, right? And he just starts talking about his business. And I'm like, dude, I can't say that I've ever been more blown away by any real estate agent in my life than this dude, right? So this dude, like he should be the host of GSD, not me. Like this guy makes me look like nothing, right? So stoked and honored to have Justino Arroyo on the show. Welcome to the show, my friend.
What's going on? That's one hell of an introduction. I don't even know if I deserve all that, but
yeah, no, you do, man. You're, dude. You 100, dude. Like, I still. Like, dude, like I get goosebumps thinking about the shit that you pulled off, dude. And just to, I mean, I'm going to have you go in your backstory, but I just want to give you guys some context. So, Justino recently retired from the police department, was on the SWAT team. But while he was, just fathom this, right? So, and this was your second year in production?
2018 is going to be the completion of my third full year.
Okay. So 2017. So second year in real estate, right? Does almost 90 transactions. What was it, 89?
I pulled up my numbers on the MLS just to pull. I wanted to pull it up because I had a couple on the MLS. Something was on the market was 79 transactions total.
Okay,
I had a couple of the flips and all the other stuff that I do, but it was 79 transactions.
All right, so individual agent, no assistants at the time. You know, now he's building his team. But individual realtor, 79 closings, acquired. What was it? 17, 18, 19 investment properties?
About 20, you know, outside jobs that I did between rental acquisitions and flips.
All right. So just think of those, right? So almost 20 investment between flips and buying holds and whatever that he's doing. That transaction count, no assistance, right? Had a brand new baby that year. Yep. Yeah. Right. So new dad that year, all while working full-time on the SWAT team. Right? Like, when you know, I'm getting goosebumps to talk about it right now. You can't see because of the sweater, dude. But like, I did 48 deals my first year, man. And I mean, it's 2005, and you know, we didn't have like DocuSign, and you know, there's razor flip. Some of that's excuses though. Like maybe you know, I might have been able to do a little bit more, but I can't even fathom. Like I did 48, and I'm like, dude, I need to. Like I started growing my team right away. I'm like, screw this, and I was full time. Yeah, right. Like I still. Even though like I ended up, this wasn't planned, right? Like this is at this event. I'm like, dude, I need you to come on stage. Yeah, right. Like wasn't planned. He was just chilling in his board shorts, t-shirt. Wasn't planning to come on stage.
Yeah, I definitely wasn't dressed for that.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, like I need your ass to get up here, man. We gotta jam on this, man. So first of all, dude, before we get into all of that, because dude, like you changed my paradigm in so many things, dude. And a lot of it, like you said, was out of necessity because you just didn't have time. So you had to get so ungodly efficient, which we'll talk about. But I want to, before we get into that, man, I'm always intrigued in our guest journeys that led them into real estate, man. I mean, I know you know, finished high school at 16 and your upbringing was
less than ideal.
Yeah, less than ideal. That's a good way to put it. And you know, and that led into, you know, I don't know if you had a journey before the police department and then led into real estate, but let's just rewind the clocks, man. Like, what was your journey that led you here?
All right. I mean, we'll take it back to right out of high school. You know, I went to college for a little while, and then I worked in a bunch of restaurants, just doing day-to-day tasks, nothing in a professional atmosphere. At one point, I was managing a restaurant for a little while, actually a pretty famous restaurant, Shula Steakhouse. I was a manager there for a short period of time. During that time frame, I was like, I don't know what to do. And then I happened to see an ad for a mortgage company. I actually put my application in, went through an interview, got hired. It lasted about 5 months. And this was right before the market crash. At that point, I was like 21, 22 years old. Had a couple great months. I think I made 15 grand one month. And for a guy at 22 years old, I was like, damn, I'm loaded. I'm ready to go. I was like, okay, where did I spend the money at? Fast forward a few months, we come in one day, there's an eviction sign on the door. I was like, what the hell's an eviction sign? I had no idea what an eviction was. Find out, I speak to the manager on there. She's like, hey, listen, he's just consolidating. He saw the writing on the wall. He saw the implosion happening and just started consolidating offices, stopped paying rent, and ended up taking his business down south to Florida.
And you guys had no idea?
We had no idea. It literally just came on a Monday morning. So that week, we had like 30 days before we had to get out. I was like, okay, what am I going to do? I saw another sign that said, real estate class coming up at the local school. So instead of going to work, I went to the real estate class. I attended my 60-hour class there and never did anything with it. I was like a little too shaky. At this point, we had a young kid at home. So the baby we just had, that's our second. So we have Dominic and we have Luca. We had a young kid at home. My wife and I were a young couple. It was scary. I mean, we literally had no idea what to do. So I was like, I need stability. What more stable than getting a government job?
So this is 22 years old.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. I was 21 because I started being a police officer right around 22. I went to the police academy, got hired shortly thereafter, and just started doing the thin blue line grind, where I was just working the street. A few months after that, I landed a full-time position. So now I was just on patrol. I was working my 40-hour work week. But at that time, the department I was at, we would switch a lot. So we'd be day shift one week, night shift the next, a lot of back and forth. Fortunately, that didn't last long for me. I ended up getting a detective position pretty soon on the job. Not because I had any accolades that awarded me that, just there was an opening there, nobody wanted it, so I jumped in it. Did very well for that for a few years. There were some rough times financially with that department, so I decided to take another position at a neighboring jurisdiction. Bigger department, about twice the size, a little bit more assets, so I felt more comfortable there. Got the job there, and that's when I started seeing some of the writing on the wall. A lot of this started happening at the same time. I started realizing that my time wasn't being spent effectively. My schedule was constantly changing. I missed several of my wife's birthdays because, I'm getting a SWAT call out or, somebody broke into a house and I had to go process the crime scene. And it just started opening my eyes a little bit of where I wanted to structure myself. Just prior to that transition though, we were short staffed at the small department that I was at. So I managed to make like $30,000 extra overtime then. I mean, it was blood money. I was literally there day to night, 7 days a week. And I made about 30 grand extra. I was like, okay, what do I do with this? I happened to be at a wrestling match with a buddy of mine, Scott, and we were both watching our kids wrestle. And I was like, dude, I don't know what to do with this money. I mean, it's nice to have it. And I was like, I'm blessed to have it. So I'm like, this is awesome. 30 grand in the bank to me was like $1 million. He's like, dude, buy rental property. That's what I'm doing. At that point, he might have had about a dozen or so. He's like, you do this, you do that, and you do this. I was like, is it that simple? Can't be that simple. So I did it. That following weekend, I bought a house that literally was horrendous. Literally, I paid 26 grand for the house. I spent 35 grand fixing it. That's how bad it was. Holes in the floor. I mean, the kitchen, you could see right through the basement. But we had no resources. We had no money saved up. So I literally spent 35 grand on my credit card to fix the house up. And I sat there and worked from 7 in the morning to 3 p.m. as a cop. 3:30, I was at the house, and I worked from 3:30 in the afternoon to 3 in the morning. Literally for 3.5 months with no power in the house because PPL wasn't even coming to power in the house, and PPL is a local distributor. They wouldn't come and put power to the house because they just had no time. There were storms going on. There were other things. So I ran the whole job site on a generator for 3 months. Fixed the house up, got it renovated, got it rented out, and then I was like, okay, I see the business side to this. Started getting involved, and I was like, hold on. I think I still have my real estate schooling done. So I started digging through some file cabinets, and I was like, wait, this expires in about 6 months. I was like, okay, it's either shit or get out the pot. Oh, I shouldn't be saying that. Let's get shit done. What am I talking about? So I was either shit or get out the pot. I was like, okay, I'm going to go at it. So I literally signed up for the next available spot, sat down, and luckily, knock on wood, passed the test the first time around. Started now seeing the business side. And then from there, things just started, just going insane. It's been a whirlwind, but a good whirlwind.
Yeah. Yeah, love it, dude. So when you first got your real estate license, though, was it just to acquire more investments, or right out of the gate, was it like, all right, man, I'm going to also do the investments but make a career out of this?
No, it was strictly just to get more investments because I was having a hard time. I would call up agents like, hey, I want to see this property. It's $35,000. They said, okay, no problem. I'll meet you there at 4:00. I showed at 4 o'clock. Nobody showed up.
No.
That happened several times. I'm like, okay, what's going on? At this point, I didn't understand the backside to the commissions and how it's structured. I was just like, dude, why don't he want to sell a house? At this point, I was like most people. I was like, okay, the guy works for RE/MAX, so he gets paid by RE/MAX. He's on a salary. Why is he not showing up? Had no idea what it actually took and what the backside of it was.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it, dude. So, you said something earlier that just kind of intrigued me that I wanted to ask you a follow up on you talked about, like reading the writing on the wall and discovering that you weren't utilizing your time in the right way, right. But at the same time, I mean, yeah, you're grinding at the police department, but it's important work, right. Like it's, right. Like just saving lives and I don't know. I mean, I don't want to say there's not more important work, but it's probably some of the most important work that could be done. Like it's a necessity, right? So was there, because so much of what we go through in life, dude, right, is this like internal war, like, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, the angel and the demon battle, right? Of that. Like, I'm just kind of curious, like what was happening internally? Like, did you have that struggle of between, the serving that you're doing with the job, but then not being able to be there as a husband and a father like you wanted to?
Oh, 100%. And I think a lot of it happened when I switched departments, not realizing what it was going to take. So the department that I was at initially, because I was a detective, I made my schedule. So I was there 7 to 3. I had some flexibility. When I left to go to the bigger department, thinking it would be more secure, the bigger department schedule was horrendous. It was literally, we were on for 6 days straight, off for 2 days, on for 6, but the next 6 days was a different shift. So every 7.5 days, we were switching to a different schedule. We went from days to nights to middles.
What's the point of that?
Because that was a way of being even and giving proper coverage to everybody.
Okay.
That was the way they felt, since we're not going to give somebody just day shift, we're not going to give somebody just night shift. And it was one of the things where that's the way it's been done forever. So we're going to let that ride.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude. So, all right. So, one cool thing about you though, dude, is like, okay, you're like most people, like you're telling me a story of rehabbing that house. And like, I'm sitting there thinking, okay, your buddy told you that this was this easy. Like, it can't be that easy. And you're there just grinding for 3 months. Like it wasn't quite as easy as maybe, there's some complexities there, but you saw the business side to it. I think most people don't have that entrepreneurial kind of mindset where they'd be like, dude, never again, screw that shit, right? Did you have like any type of exposure to entrepreneurship as a kid, or like, is that just, how did you get that mindset in the first place to look at it from that right lens?
I figured I had nothing to lose. I grew up, and I know I mentioned that in my bio, but I grew up in the projects of Brooklyn, New York. When I first met my wife and I first moved out to Pennsylvania, where I'm residing now, I didn't know how to start a lawnmower. That's no exaggeration. My father-in-law to this day still makes fun of me because literally he's like, I have no idea how you're doing what you're doing, but I remember I taught you how to start a lawnmower years ago. Literally no knowledge. I actually went to this great school called YouTube University.
Yeah.
Taught me a ton of things. That's how I picked up everything. Literally everything we did in the house was literally just me sitting there. I would buy like the books that I needed for the codes and the manuals. And I sat there, I would read it for a couple of hours, do the next step, read it, do the next step, pull up a video, do the next step. And that's how we managed to get to the first job. And just the value that I learned from doing that was just, it can't be bought.
Yeah, no, I love it, dude. So that $35,000 that you put on the credit card, that was just materials. Like you did all the labor yourself.
That was just, literally it was, 150 sheets of drywall. It was like 21 windows. It was new flooring throughout the house, new bathrooms. Everything in the house. We reframed the whole entire house. It was one of those houses you see on TV that people chuckle at.
Yeah. Love it, dude. So then, all right, man. So you get your real estate license now, and you're going to start acquiring more investment properties, but still working at the department. Like how long did that go on and take place? Like, kind of walk us through that journey, and then at what point we were like, man, because I know you just exited, from the department recently, but at what point did you make up your mind of like this is over? Like, come walk us through that journey.
So, doing the investment side, it was almost overnight, where I was looking at investments, and then I was always doing training and I came across your podcast earlier. I'm like, okay, I have this real estate license. What am I going to do with this? I'm actually a realtor now. What am I going to do with this? So I started following up your podcast. I went through a number of different trainings, and I was like, whoa, what is this? I've never seen this whole business side of this. I can make this much money. These guys are making that. So I was like, okay, how do I do it? So that's when I started flipping my thought process. I was like, okay, I'm going to continue to do the traditional stuff where I'll buy my investment properties. I'll do what I have to do, but I'm going to get into the sales side. And first off, I had riffraff coming back from the guys in my department.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, there was all kinds of riffraff guys saying, oh, look what you're doing. I mean, there was all kinds of rumors being spread around that I didn't have money, et cetera, to the point that I got into a pissing match with the supervisor in the parking lot because of all kinds of accusations, because they were saying that I was doing real estate while on duty.
Yeah.
And I was like, if you want to get up with me at 4 o'clock in the morning and go to bed with me at 1 in the morning, you're more than welcome to. There's a lot of hustle that goes into this. It's not, I'm not pulling up in a patrol car at a house. You're doing an open house.
Right.
But I figured I'd give it a shot. So obviously coming from a very impoverished background, I had some scarcity and I was a little afraid of making the plunge. So I was like, I'm just going to write it out, build it out and see what it comes to. That leading into my first year, I bought my first investment property as a realtor. I was my first client. I bought one December of 2015. My first actual closing that I had as a realtor was January of 2016. So in 2016, just from seeing that side and using some, the Zillow leads I was buying was just trash. I mean, they weren't really much of anything, but they got the phone to ring. It was all I could afford at the time. But I just got intentional on just shutting up and listening to what people said. I got in front of them and then, I started mastering my buyer's consultation. That's what was huge for me. And I mean, my first year in 2016 as a single agent working full time, I closed $4 million in transactions.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, hold on, $4 million making this kind of money. I was like, and I'm still paying my broker that? What would happen if I take it up a notch? And that's when the wheels started spinning, but I didn't commit yet. The wheels just started spinning. So I said, you know what? Maybe it was a fluke. Maybe I'm not that good. Maybe just this year just happened to me. So I started driving through right into 2017. And 2017 was just an animal for me. But 2017 was also when I was part of that schedule, it was good and bad for me at the same time. It was good because it taught me to be super intentional with my timing. What's that old saying? If you want to find out how to get something done quickly, ask a busy person or something like that. I forget how it goes, but that was my philosophy. That was my life. I mean, between having a wife at home, between having, a 14-year-old son that has sports and you're running back and forth with, I had to find out how to fit, 80 transactions in and still work full time. So when you mentioned that I was on the SWAT team, I was full time as a patrol officer. So I would answer, the domestic calls and the vehicle accidents. The SWAT stuff and the negotiator stuff that was just on top of that. So we would get call outs that was outside of my regular schedule. So that was the back and forth that we were doing. And I just started digging heavily into my, my SOI and Zillow. And that's how I started building out that second year.
Yep. Yep. Love it, dude. So in the alumni, man, we've got several other, police officers that, kind of, I don't want to say went through something. They didn't go. I mean, the similarity was police department decided they wanted different, found real estate and transitioned. And, but man, everyone that I talked to a lot, right. I mean, number one, they all seem to kill it. Like I always talk to my team leader or my team manager about this. I'm like, we just got to start recruiting for the police department, dude. Like, all right. And we'll go into that of the skill sets that you learn there from that and how that applies to real estate. But, also, dude, like I've yet to meet anybody that didn't get hazed like hard freaking core for leaving, and like just like everybody's ripping. Oh, we'll see you back here in 6 months. You get, and is that just the type of culture and the environment that is like maybe they're because they say that life is just a mirror, right? Everything you say, you're just projecting like your own shit of like maybe they're pissed off internally and feeling like a failure, like they're just projecting that bullshit on you, right? This question really has nothing to do with the podcast or having. I'm just curious because it's like it just seems like everybody like just gets tased harder than any other environment that I've heard of anybody that's exited from.
It's such a tough a tough call to make because while I think there's some departments that have this great brotherhood that they'll support you no matter what, and it's funny, I got more support outside of my local department than I ever did in the department I was working at. So like I had neighboring jurisdictions that, that some of the guys saw what I was doing. They supported me. They're like, awesome. Some of them became my clients, et cetera. Phenomenal experience. But it was for some reason the people that were right with me they just didn't care for it. And I don't know if it's, I guess what I'm trying to find out is, how, in what we do now, we have an abundance mindset.
Yeah.
We want other people to succeed. We'll share our knowledge. I don't know if it felt, because it is, unfortunately, a very cutthroat field with respect to law enforcement, because there's a lot of promotions, there's limited positions. So, and you're putting a lot of alphas in one room. So you put a lot of alphas in a confined environment where there is a paramilitary structure. I don't know. I think that might have caused a lot of the, animosity and the grief.
Yeah.
And then you have some people that get that burnout. I mean, there is that burnout of police officers. First 5 years, you're loving it. 5 years after that, you're like, okay, am I really going to commit to it? Then 10 to 15 years, you're like, okay, damn, I got to finish this out. And the last 5 years, it's like, I'm getting to retirement. Screw this.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people in that spectrum. So whether that has something to do with it, where people are like, okay, why the hell is he getting out? He's only been doing this 10 years, and I still got 23 more to go. That may have played into it for sure.
Yeah, and I gotta imagine. I mean, I'm speaking just out of my ass here because I've never have been a police officer, right? So, but man, you guys, like, all day long, you're just dealing with the worst negative shit. Like, you don't get a call because somebody got an awesome award. Like, you're getting a call because, like, all day long, I gotta imagine, like you said, like, your mindset now, the abundance mindset, in that position, and but that's the job, right? Like, you're called in a worst scenario and situation. So, like, after so long of just, it's because it's all negativity, nobody's well, maybe some people are excited that you show up, but there's always somebody that's pissed off that you're showing up too, right? I got to imagine that just kind of wears on you, dude, right?
It definitely does. And I'll be honest, a lot of guys that I know don't take advantage of listening to positive stuff. They don't listen to podcasts. They don't listen to, different videos. So the back and forth of seeing that negative all day long, it's going to wear you. I don't care who you are. Yeah. I don't care who you are, how strong you are mentally. If you don't have something to counterbalance that, it's just going to bring you down, and everything's going to be jaded. Everything's going to be for the worse.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it, dude. So, one thing that's, like, extremely impressive about you, dude, is your focus, right? And what I mean by this is, like, when we're in the same room together and other people are talking, like, you should be the dude talking, everybody should be learning from, but, like, you're always a student. You're like, and like, dude, like, you're always like, I can just see, like, you are just fucking, like, bam, you're there. You're not thinking about anything else. Like, you are focused. You are there. You're soaking it in. And you probably have as intense a focus I've ever met anybody that's had out there. And do you think that, I got to imagine a lot of, like, when you're on the SWAT team and a lot of that training, like, you have to be focused, right? Do you think a lot of that training allowed you to create that focus? And not just a SWAT, I guess, in any environment, you've got to be fully focused and have awareness of what's going around now. Do you think that allowed for that focus, or was that just something that you've always had?
No, I think 100%. I mean, I think when you are in a profession like that, such as law enforcement, and things can change on a dime, and you got to make the split-second decision that can literally change your whole entire life. You have to be able to zone out and focus on exactly what's going on, but at the same time, not lose track of what's beyond either your target or your threat or whatever you're dealing with. So being able to, just hone in on that. To one extent, we want to have tunnel vision, but to the other extent, you want to, keep it a little broader than just a tunnel, because, in law enforcement, you have that life or death situation. If you're not looking beyond it, there may be another threat you're not paying attention to. But at the same time, you have to give that first threat as much attention as you can. So, I mean, without a doubt, I think, the whole experience of being a police officer has helped me be as successful as I am at this moment.
Then with going back to your focus, dude, like I said, like when and I'm those that are watching and listening, they haven't been in a room with you and been able to experience this like I have. We spent some quality, some good time together over the years. But dude, like I said, like you're the guy that we all should be picking your brain, right? But you're never like, like the guy that, like, you're just that student, right? Like, you're there, you're soaking it up. You're extremely humble. You're not, like, you start talking with a lot of realtors, like, oh, well, then I do this. Like, you're just there in really observation learning mode, which I think is amazing. Is that something that you do intentionally, dude? Of like, I catch myself all the time because I'll, like, start butting in, and then I'm like, oh shit, man, like, well, like Justino, like, you pop in my head. I'm like, I gotta have Justino focus, man, right? And just keep being that student. Is that something that you do consciously, intentionally, or is that just
100%? 100%. Because I always figured that I can learn more. You know, the old saying, you know, you have 2 ears and one mouth. You know, you want to shut up and listen twice as much. That's always been my philosophy. So if you can put me in a room and I'll listen. I mean, to the example, just last week, you know, sometime last year, I brought a buddy of mine on who was similar, wasn't law enforcement, wanted to get into the industry. I brought him on and showed him some of the ropes, and then he went on doing his own thing. Last week, he put on a little training at the brokerage that he's working at, you know, about lead gen, and it caught him off guard when I showed up and I sat in the back of the class. You know, I'll go to every possible training I can, because if I can pick up one little thing from a training, it was well worth, you know, an hour of my time or 2 hours of my time. You know, it's those little moments that people tend to miss, and it's being able to separate and hyper focus in those things. Like for me, your podcasts have been astronomical for me. I mean, if it wasn't for the back in the day when you were doing the Level Up segment, you know, that was huge for me. I mean, that was every morning while I was doing my workout, that what was on. That was my 15-minute, you know, startup, because they were short, sweet, right to the point. 15 minutes, you're in there.
Yeah.
And it was huge. It's just, so if I can learn, I'd rather learn, and just keep depositing, making deposits. That's the one bank no one can have access to.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it, dude. So, you know, my theory, man, just because I've, as I said earlier, man, I've witnessed, and I'm sure there's some that this isn't always the case, but it just seems that those that I've had experience with, that I've met, that come from law enforcement, that get into real estate, dude, they I haven't personally met one that just hasn't done some amazing things, you know, right? And kicked ass. I mean, not to your level, but they all they seem to do pretty damn well. And, you know, I'm reflecting on, like, well, what is it about their training and whatever? And you know, my theory's been really kind of like two main things, right? Is like, number one, you're used to dealing with such insane negative shit where you're not going to have call reluctance by calling somebody in and telling you no on the phone. Like the normal things that freak us out that weren't in your environment. Like, you're like, dude, like, you know, right? Like, why would you like, you know, be afraid of that? Because you're used to dealing with so much other shit. And then the second component, dude, is you've got to like be very intentional reading body language and reading people's personalities and kind of mirroring and matching in with the negotiation skill set. Because at the end of the day, it's all a human relationship business and how you connect with them, right? And
Absolutely,
you got to be able to connect with people, and like in their worst states, you know, right? So you got to be damn good at it. Now, would you say that those two theories are accurate that I have?
100%. 100%. I mean, think about it like this. When most people go, and most agents are out there, and they put you, and you're a new agent, they put you into the field. What's the first thing they want you to do? They want you to meet with a coach, and they want you to role play. Why do they want you to role play? Like you know, you mentioned before, you want your guys to have 100, 200 role play sessions in before they're even out there. And by having 100 or 200 role play sessions in, whether it's a listing appointment or a buyer's consultation, just that training alone will put them mountains ahead of any other agent that doesn't do it. They just try to go on a win. So now you take a police officer that's been on the job, that's been on the street for 5-10 years. Literally for the past 5 or 10 years, they've spent, you know, let's say 80 hours a year. They've spent 2,080 hours a year interviewing people. Literally, that's all we do all day long. Whether you're giving someone a ticket, whether you're talking to someone, whether they lost their purse, whether they got, you know, stabbed. Everything's an interview. And it's those little cues that you look for that if you miss it, could let the bad guy get away. So, I mean, you have to be intentional. And the person may not even realize they're saying it. They're just giving you basic facts that they think are important. But it's being able to make those transitions from point to point that, one, you could find out exactly what the real meaning behind a buyer who wants to buy something. Or you could find the meaning of, okay, yeah, so this guy had this on, but he had a black shirt on. And the black shirt had a red logo on it that they never realized until you told them. But yeah, you found a guy down the road with two guys with a black shirt on, but one had a red logo, one didn't. So it's being able to pick apart those little separations that are huge.
Now, you know, obviously, like, you had the police academy and the ongoing training and the SWAT team, like, for that stuff. Have you, you know, because you are such a student, man, have you, like, for, like, you know, me or our listeners that don't necessarily have access or maybe not going to go through the police academy, right? Have you had any, like, type of, you know, self-development books that you've read that you think can train people to pick up on those kind of nonverbal cues?
I can't think of one. I just divert back to a lot of my training, like I said. So I've been to, you know, more than a handful of interview interrogation schools. I've been through the FBI hostage negotiator course that they put on, that qualifies us to be on our negotiation team, which that was on. So, I mean, just that alone. And I spent almost 10 years on the job.
Yeah.
So spending almost 10 years on the job, my job was to interview people and talk to them all day long. So, and at that time, you know, what I mentioned at the alumni meeting was like, when most people talk to people, they talk to you for half a second, they glance down at their phone. They talk to you for 2 minutes, they're doing something else. When we're in an interview with the suspect, we're not talking and looking at our phone. I mean, we're engaged with them because we're looking for those little cues that they make. We're looking for the body shifts. We're looking for the eye drop. I mean, there's a number of things we look for that's going to help us get into them and know whether, you know, we're going the right direction or the wrong direction. I took that same methodology and I placed it in with my buyer's consultations or my listing consultation. And there's no trick and there's no deceit to it. It's just listening to people. I actively just look in the eyes. I talk to them. I'm not there on my phone thinking, okay, oh, what do you want to do? Okay, cool. And I'm searching my Facebook or texting somebody else. No, I give them my genuine attention. And I mean, think about it. Think about how many people don't get 30 minutes of your attention a day. So if you sit there in front of a buyer or a seller and you give them 30 minutes of your undivided attention, you actively listen to them. You give them effective pauses. You mirror them. I mean, you actually just let them know that you're hearing them, not just listening to them. Or is it the other way around? But well, pretty much that you're paying attention. You let them know that you're paying attention. It wins them over every time. And like I said, there's nothing that's a trick to it. It's just doing what you're there to do. Take all the other nonsense that usually distracts you and get your focus out of whack, and just focus on them. They called you for a purpose. They want a professional who's going to help them either buy or sell their house. So at that point, come and be the professional. And then that has just taken me. And then I've taken that, and because I had to be intentional on my schedule, I doubled down that and I knocked out a 30-minute buyer's consultation. That's my thing. I do my buyer's consultation with my lender in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's been huge.
Yeah, love it. And I'm going to get into that here in a moment. But before I get into that, dude, because I want to just talk about, because you talked about, you know, Zillow leads, you talked about some online leads, and you talked about, you know, tapping in your sphere of influence. So, you know, the first thing I want to talk about is, okay, that, you know, first full year that you're like, all right, I'm going to, you know, not just invest, but I'm going to, you know, attack this as a real estate agent and still in the police department, but we'll just, you know, like, I think anybody would freaking be on cloud nine full-time in real estate doing 79 transactions a year. Like, most people can't even fathom that without all the other shit you had going on. You know, right? But how did you get the business in the first place? Kind of talk to us about like what your lead generation strategy was. And then we'll talk about how that transitioned today. And then, yeah, then I definitely want to get to the consultation, dude, because you're the only dude out of my whole entire career that's changed my mindset on revamping my entire consultation, man.
It's paramount. I mean, that's set up. So pretty much most of my thing was I spent a number of years just in the public eye. So if I was in restaurants back in the day, if I was a mortgage broker or being a police officer, I always treated people kindly. I always treated people right. So by treating people the way I did, I mean, I was able to build a rapport, build the relationships. And I always kept in touch with them. So that was just some, you know, people in the piggy bank that I knew that were there that I'd reach out to eventually. Outside of that was Zillow and Facebook. I mean, I was one of the first people in my area that, because of your boot camp, that was doing a lot of the Facebook stuff. You know, I utilized Perfect Storm, which is super easy to work with. I mean, it's literally, I'd look at a bunch of CRMs, so I got to do a shameless plug for Josh, but awesome system. But that being said, I was able to just run off Zillow, and I wasn't super focused on a certain price point. I wasn't super focused on an area. You know, I covered anywhere within 45 minutes of me, but I focused on one thing. And it was this right here, which I have this on my phone. I have this everywhere. Yeah. And the main thing was because of the activities. My goal was, what activities am I going to do? So I got 4 hours. I got 5 hours, you know, before or after my shift, wherever it was, depending on how I was filling it in. And my goal was to deal with those activities. So if Zillow leads came in, I was calling those leads. If it was Facebook leads, you know, as you know, the free groups, I mean, a lot of this changed now over time. But when the free groups were out, you know, 2-3 years ago, and we were hitting, you were getting 50. I mean, I post in the group sometimes. I was getting 50, 60, 70 leads a night for free. So I had enough stuff to make the phone ring. So that being said, taking that where, you know, as a police officer, I had to knock on somebody's door and wherever they were going to shoot me, or if I was the bad guy, now I got to knock on the door, ask them if they want to buy or sell a house. the level of stress is significantly lower. So I had no problem doing that all day long.
Yeah.
So I just used those. As long as I got the information into me, I was running with it. And that was the thing. Focusing on those activities ultimately ended up with the escrows. I followed your Bible, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it, dude. So, a lot of agents will sit there and say like things like, "Oh, dude, Facebook, man, it's such a long-term nurture play and whatever." But I mean, you were closing deals right out of the gate, and a lot of this was probably because you were so pressed for time. Like you didn't have time to fuck around, and you didn't have time for others to fuck around. So it was like, get them on the phone, connect with them. Like, are we doing this or not? Like, well, your speed to converting an internet lead to a consultation is probably about as good as I think any realtor out there in the game, right? So can you kind of talk about what that looked like because your time was so crunched, like just be with that intention that you had, like when you got them on the phone and how you set the appointment, had that full attention instead of just trying to play this out for a year-long nurture process like most do?
Well, what I did was I once again, I got to give you a plug. I followed you. I listened exactly what you said, where I treated it like a professional, like a professional. So when someone came in, a lead came in, I would call them. So speed to the lead, as always. We all know that. In this industry, speed to the lead. If you're not calling them back, you're wasting your money. So when they would call in, however it was, and the majority of this was all inbound, I didn't do a lot of prospecting. A lot of this was all inbound stuff. The phone rings, I'm calling them up. I'm setting an appointment with them right away. And it wasn't an appointment 6 months from now. It was an appointment a year from now. It was an appointment like, hey, listen, you're looking at me? No problem. Tomorrow I got 2:00 and I got 4:00 on Wednesday. And it was because of that, what a lot of people don't realize is for someone to make the decision to finally call you or click the button to ask more information, it's an emotional event for them. They're getting into it. They're excited. They're like, okay, you know what? I think I'm ready. I think I'm ready to get a little bit more information. But the first second they get shut down, they get scared. It's like hitting a dog in the nose. It just goes away. And it takes a while before the dog's going to want to come back. So I never wanted to hit him in the nose. I never wanted to stifle them. I was like grandma on, Thanksgiving, come on in, give me what you got. And I would meet with them and I built that relationship from the beginning. It's a scary situation. How many times a day are we getting sold? It's like 2,000 plus times a day. You're getting sold. So if you eliminate that sell aspect and just come to them with genuine interest and genuine care for them, you win them over every single time. And it's, once again, it was never about the money. It was never about the trying to get them into an escrow. It was about, how do I help this person that just asked for my services? And if I can help them, everything else happens automatically. If you have your systems down packed, if you know your job and you treat it like a profession, the rest will follow. But it's getting in front of them and getting them to shake your hand and look you in the eye. And that you look them in the eye and you actually listen to them when time comes down to it.
Yeah. So, we're in an industry where we're like the bottom of the totem pole on likability index. It's like realtors down here, then like car salesmen, attorneys, and then at the top's like police officers, firefighters. So you went from like being at the number one most loved in the public eye to like the bottom, right? So with that though, these are strangers. Like, yeah, they took an action, but they're still a stranger. And you get them to meet in your office right out of the gate. And I love all the things that you said, but how do you portray that to somebody on the phone that is already has a story that like you're, the sleazy, pushy, hardcore realtor salesman? Like, how do you make them comfortable in that call?
It's just listening to them. It's just listening and talking to them. Don't try to push yourself onto them. You want to show them that you have guidance. You want to show them that you understand, but you don't want to force yourself down to them. So like I said, and maybe that's why I'm not that good at prospecting. I like to listen. I like to understand, but I'm not the prospect that, call in the morning and, giving them 45 lines real quick to get them onto it till I get a commitment from them. That was never my style. My style was the fact that I'm going to listen to you. I want to hear what your problem is. And then from your problem, I'm going to answer you, but I'm not going to cut you off. I'm not going to rush, because everything we do and everything I do in life, I'm like this. I'm running 1,000,000 miles an hour. But, there's time where you got to slow down. So for that 3-minute phone conversation that I'm on the phone with the person, setting the commitment or setting the next appointment, I'm engaging with them. That's been the key to my success, is when you're with someone and actually engage with them and listen to them. I can't tell you how many clients I've inherited from whether it's at an open house and and they see me actually talking to them, or whether it was, a party or a Facebook advertisement, or, I do testimonials, which has been huge. Remind me to talk about that before let me put a note down. But so they'll see those testimonials, and just the words that people say and what they mention would get people to think, okay, maybe he does actually care. Maybe it's more than just a transaction for him. And so building that relationship, and it doesn't take a lot. A lot of people think, you got to build this huge relationship. You don't. You got to make small bridges to get over to where you need to get to. There's no need to try to make, the Golden State Bridge and try to cross this huge mound and, asking them for a commitment buyer's consultation right away. Just say, hey, listen, let's chat. Let's talk. I see you looking for this stuff. When can you meet? Just be a resource of information. I mean, there's a lot of people pushing that right now with doing videos and stuff like that, because that's what people want. People don't want to be sold. They want you to be a resource. They want you to be available to them, to help them and guide them, and then everything else will follow through.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, dude. It's so simplistic, but we overcomplicate all this shit in our own heads so hardcore. But it comes down to the golden rule, right? That's how you want to be treated, and just when you become an observant consumer, right? Like last night, I spent like an hour at the car lot. Man, I've been battling with like what I want, and but I went there, man. Like I left, dude, and the guy there, I mean, like I wanted to give him a hug when I left, dude, right? Because he was just so like cared so much about like what mattered and the backseat size for the kids and not one time did a sales conversation come up. And then I had to go to pick up my son from gymnastics, right? And again, no pressure. I'm like, but I was like, hey, dude, like, I'm going to call you tomorrow. I'm going to make a decision tonight. Yeah, right. But where's your card? Like I said, man, like I fucking like literally like I was all shaking his head, but I was like, I want to give you a hug, dude, just because, like he just blew. I mean, that's exactly how I wanted to be treated. And we've all been, I think, bought cars. Well, we haven't. I bought a car across. I was looking at this Lexus one time, and the dude was such a high pressure, just freaking asshole, man. And I went across the street and bought an Infiniti that I didn't want as much. But the car salesman was over there, was so down there. So I bought a car I didn't even want near as much just because the dude treated me so well, right? And I don't know what your take is this, but like all these agents are freaking out with all these disruptors and whatever. And I don't think it has anything to do with commissions or whatever. It's the lack of the human connection. And when you talk about like just being there, like for anybody that's listening, like just really think about when's the last time anybody in your life has like just been fully there with you, not distracted, not checking the phone, or just 5 minutes. It just doesn't it doesn't fucking exist, right? Like How to Win Friends and Influence People, man. I think that book is more relevant today than it was when it was written in the 1930s, right?
Oh, absolutely. That's huge.
Right? All right, dude. So, okay. So you get them comfortable, you set the meeting. What I love though is walk us through your strategy of, okay, so you're going to meet with them, you bring them in the office because you don't have time to go like show houses, right? Well, you do, but we'll get into that. But because of your schedule so intense, so you get them there, you get your lender there, right? Because you got to be so intentional. But like I love, dude, like your booking strategy with the lender, right? And then your consultation, dude. Yeah, right. Like I go through this elaborate consultation, which is, don't get me wrong, it's worked really well for me over the years. But I'm like, dude, like you've simplified it, and obviously it's so freaking effective. So I'll shut up. Walk us through it, man.
So pretty much what I've done is, like I said, somebody calls in during the phone call. I just build a relationship with them and just talking to them, find out what their needs are, what their wants are. Never am I being the pushy one. After I get their information, I'm like, okay, no problem. Let's set up our consultation. I mean, when would you like to meet? To help you out, to make it easy for your schedule, because I'm sure you're busy just as I am. Let's get together and I'll have my lender show up. You're not required to use this lender, but what I like to do is they come in, they give you a snapshot. That way, even if there is, some things that we got to work with or it's not the right time, we can game plan 6, 8, 9 a year from now. That's been crucial because it's not a sales pitch again. I'm not trying to get you pre-approved and run you into a house. I'm not trying to get you going right away right now. I'm just saying, hey, listen, half an hour of your time, a half an hour of my time, let's get you in the position that you're heading in the right direction. So fast forward now, we come to the buyer's consultation. I usually have my lender come in about 15 minutes after I started. Those first 15 minutes are all mine. I'm there with a client. We're talking. I'm finding out about them. I'm finding out about their family, their wants, their needs, what they're looking for, the area. But I'm not writing anything down. I'm not wasting my time handwriting things and losing my focus. My whole focus for them is literally engaging with them, looking at them smile. When they say their daughter's name, they chuckle. When she says her boyfriend's name, who's soon to be her husband, she smiles like, somebody just gave her candy in third grade. Those are the things that you pick up on that most people miss because they're looking like this. You can't see them. So by being able to build that relationship and making it concise, it becomes not an inconvenience. So, think about it. If you had to go to a car dealership and they told you, okay, no problem, come take a look at the car. And then they told you, no problem, the lender will call you the next couple of days to get you your finances squared away. And then it took 4 days for the lender and you to get a hold because you're playing phone tag. And then, then the following week, okay, now we're actually going to take the car for a test drive. And then next week you go out to okay, no problem, but then we got to wait another week to get it inspected. It becomes frustrating. And that's one of the things I've realized early on. It's frustrating. We're all doing the same job. We're all selling homes. The goal is how are we going to make it the least inconvenient for the consumer and the most pleasurable experience. And by eliminating that, I was able to get them into there, actually understand what they're looking for. Then the lender comes in, she or he introduces themselves. We sit down, we go over financials. As they're going over financials, I double back. That's when I pull my keyboard out. I take some notes. I create my documents in Dotloop or DocuSign, whatever I'm using. I submit it to them electronically at that point. Because once I've set up the buyer's consultation, I've gotten the information. I've already created my calendar alert, added them to the email. So I have their emails. I have their basic information. During the buyer's consult, I'm getting the specifics. And if you can't remember the specifics, it's not that much. The daughter's there, he's there. You can get that information. You type it up, add your little notes in your CRM, and then send the paperwork out. During that time frame, I go over, our compliance docs that we're required to go over. I go over what our consumer notice is, and I go over what our buyer's agency contract is. And I just express to them, I say, listen, the time that we're invested here, the time my lender's coming in, everyone's coming in, you're not required to use any of us, but what I ask for is a commitment for you because I'm going to devote this much time. And now if I tried to do that from the beginning, they'd run. They'd flat out run. I don't even know you. And it's like trying to go walk up to a girl, hey, listen, will you marry me? She's going to run. But if you build a relationship with her for a number of years and now she knows you and she's comfortable with you and you decide you want to get these, depending on how good your game is, then she may run or not. But that being said, I was able to connect with them. And it's just, 30, 35 minutes. They're pre-approved. Everything's squared away. And then we set up the next appointment to go house hunting. And I asked them to trust me with this. I take their specific parameters and I dilute them a little bit. I open it up so we can get a genuine feel for what's out there. Now, there are some people that are super, super, super focused. Like, listen, if it's not A, B, and C, I don't even want to see it. But there's some people that I trust because most people haven't been in a million homes. They haven't seen all the different types. And there's so many homes that look almost identical, but are so different. So getting them out there for a quick hour to go see 5, 6 different types of homes in their price point within the area they're looking. So, think about it. At this point, I've only invested an hour and a half into this client. And now I have a genuinely heartfelt understanding of what they're looking for. Where most people spend an hour and a half just sending you emails back and forth, trying to double check if the lender actually got a hold of you yet. But in an hour and a half, I got them pre-approved. I understand exactly what they're going on. I know their dog's name, their kid's last name, what sport they play. And, and my lender has them pre-approved. So that just puts me ready to go.
Yeah. So, one thing that you told me when we were at the alumni was, at least unless I might have misheard this, but you ask permission when the lender comes in if it's okay for you to be in the room because you're talking about those financials. Is that something you're still doing, or is that
100%? Yep. I always, like I said, once a lender walks in, I say, hey, this is the lender. I introduce her or him. I said, they're going to go over some information with you. Are you okay with me staying here? Would you like me to step out? If you'd like me to step out, I have no problem with that. It's not going to offend me, but I just want to make sure you're comfortable discussing your information with the lender. Yep. And I've had one person that, wished to speak in private, but all the rest were like, no, you're fine to sit here. Yeah. So if that was the case, I'd grab my laptop. Yeah, I'd grab my laptop out of my bag and I'd go knock it out.
Yeah, love it, dude. So then, all right, so you got, by 90 minutes, you've got, they're committed at this point, right? They're pre-qualified. They're committed to you through, your state agency or buyer broker or whatever.
Yep.
You know exactly what they want. So then from there, because some agents might be like, well, man, you're wasting that time, right? But they're not thinking about that clarity process of 90 minutes, the commitment and clarity process, right? How probably that shortens down the rest of the process there. So like with your average buyer, and I'm asking this because most agents, they get into the business because they say they want freedom of time, but then they're like the most lackadaisical human beings on the planet with their time, right? But you have no choice at this point but to be extremely focused with your time. So how much time from there, like how many average homes once you get to that clarity process, and how much time does it usually take on average to find them the house and get them under contract?
2 or 3. I mean, it's maybe another hour.
Yeah.
I mean, that we walk through homes. I mean, my community is not super large. I mean, I cover about 45 minutes out from where I reside at. So literally it's not large for me to go there. But if we go to one area, I mean, we can knock out the 3 homes they want to see in that area. So I would say maybe another hour and a half of me showing homes, because most of the homes they walk and they either like it, love it, or hate it. And then, you walk in, they're like, why are we here, Justino? Let's go to the next one. Yeah. So another hour and a half, and then we're usually on the contract at that point.
Yeah. And the reason I wanted to really ask you that is, so we break this down, man, 3 hours from consult, pre-qual, discovery to get full clarity process, 2 showings to getting them under contract. And what I love about this, dude, is, because our average for our team has been 5 homes to a contract, but our consult is, we treat it like a listing presentation where it's like not even counting the lender process. Like it can be an hour, right? So when I look at this, I'm like, man, like, the whole thing has always been, we'll focus on listings because that creates leverage and is a more efficient use of your time. Well, the downside of that, when you're thinking about your business as a business and you're thinking about the end game, right? I mean, buyers, when you think about repeat referral business in the lifetime value of a client, the buy side is astronomical. Like, there's no comparison of the lifetime value of a buyer compared to a seller, right? But it's like, dude, like I'm sitting thinking, okay, dude, I can't even by the time I get a listing presentation done, complete, signed, we do a walkthrough on their home and go through our staging guide and show them what to do. That's easily 3 hours. Right? So like you're done before I can even go order my professional photos, right? And the reason I'm really hitting on this is, we've been so conditioned as real estate agents to be so focused on listings, takes way longer to acquire, way more money, right? And really, if you dial it in like your process, it's less efficient, right?
Now, don't get me wrong. I enjoy listings as well. I have some great listings. I take my own photography, and I spend time doing that because I do have a passion for that. I enjoy, servicing the client, put a nice package together. It looks really nice when I'm done. But that right there, between the photography, between the 3D tours that I do, between, the walkthroughs of the house, some of the staging stuff that I recommend, the whole marketing, the Facebook ads, all that stuff that we draft up and put together. I mean, you're talking about 12, 15 hours before the open house. Then we do a 3-4 hour open house where we come, an hour before, throw the signs up, stage the area, get everything nice, put the tables up, all our banners and everything, the 17-foot flags that I got from the mega open house training, that stuff. I'm 20 hours into that right there. So, and that's not even guaranteeing a sale yet. That'll get me some more buyers that I'll do a consultation with. Yeah. But that's not guaranteeing a sale. So that's the paradigm right there that most people, they don't, for some reason they're like, well, I need all listings. I need huge listings. And I was like, oh, wait, this guy named Joshua Smith always told me, and he would always say for years, it's not just about listings, it's about escrows. Just get into escrows. And how do I get the escrows? For me, it's not that I didn't want to do more listings. It's not that I probably could have done more listings, but I didn't have every Sunday off. I didn't have every Saturday to do open houses. I didn't have the time to meet with somebody to do my printings. I didn't have the time to meet with a client during the day because I'm either getting called out for a SWAT call out, or I'm being, I have to go to court, or my shift got changed because they were able to change our shift in the middle of the week without even asking. So, my Tuesday middle shift, which should have been 3 to 11, is now my Thursday, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. And then now I have a listing appointment at 9 a.m. and I'm going in there, half asleep walking through the door. So this way with the buyer's consultation, the phone rang. I knew the next morning or the next day I was meeting with them. Super intentional, right to the point. And then 3 hours, I got them.
Yeah. I love it, dude. So, one more thing I want to ask you about the buyer consult, because your lender's there, and it's tough, right? Because I get it. Lenders running their business. They can't be reactive. So you have multiple lenders.
Yep.
You send out a calendar invite to all of them, and whoever accepts it first. That can be.
I have like kind of like a round robin.
Okay.
So whoever's the next one on the calendar, I send it to them first. If they can't make it, I remove them, add the next lender on.
How long do you give them? Because you don't have much time, right?
Yeah, usually they notify me right away. Usually, they get it. All the lenders I use, they're all, super attentive. And, obviously, like you said, and like we all do, you want to work with people that are within your sphere and they work like you. So all the lenders I work with, they're on their game. So I send them the alert. Usually I'll get an email alert, right? Hey, listen, I can't. I'm on my way with my family, or I'm in another meeting, whatever. I was like, no problem, cool. And I send it to the next one. And that way, they know they're going to be there. They know what time. They know to come a few minutes late. And then we just knock it out. And it's been that simple.
Yeah.
The big thing that most people don't realize is that lose time that you lose, between your buyer's consultation and when they finally get with the lender, who has 35 other appointments, who you call them, they call them, they go to work, you go to work, back and forth, and you play phone tag for a week. So I eliminated that whole lag time. Yeah. I take it back to and I apologize, I'm horrible with this. I know the saying, but I never ever say it correctly. But it's the one about, is it George Washington, Abraham, the one with the axe, where they say if you have 6 hours, and what are you gonna do? He sharpens it for like 5 hours and then cuts the tree down, rather than trying to cut it down for 5 hours with a dull axe. Yeah. Same thing. So I prepare myself, I get everything ready, identify what they're looking at, and then we know there's no buyer's remorse. There's not a lot of backing out, because they know what they got is something they're happy with, because they saw everything else. So it at the end also effectively helps me get more escrows, because there's not a lot of reluctancy during the inspection period. Some buyers, when they see, okay, I haven't seen a lot of homes yet, so maybe I jumped in this too soon because I didn't want to lose it. Okay, this is my way out. They back out and they go somewhere else. We're seeing that a lot now, with the competitive offers. You were seeing that a lot. Offers where people were backing out. But this way, with my clients, a lot of them have already seen a bunch of homes, within what their price point and the certain parameters that we can't change. That way they know they're comfortable with what they're jumping into.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love it. I mean, it's, the difference of that compared to my presentation is, when we do our dream home form, and I know you already know this, I'm just explaining because the listeners may not, but right. It's taking them through just trying to create a hardcore visualization of like, okay, well, let's talk about your master bedroom and your master bathroom and like your master closet. And how big do you want? You want a his and hers? And like, how do you utilize this? Do you want a jacuzzi tub? Do you want so we're trying to paint that picture, on a piece of paper, so then we can be more efficient in the showing process. Right. And like I said, it's worked pretty well over the years for us, but I mean, we got double the time into it as you do, and probably a higher fallout rate from what you just said in inspections, where like, dude, most like people, unless they can freaking see it, touch it, feel it, they can't visualize it. And that's where I went wrong, and you nailed it. And a lot of that was probably because, like, you had to figure out how to be the most efficient you possibly could be.
Well, I took it from my own lack of knowledge too. I mean, I didn't know what a split level was. I didn't know what a Tudor was. I didn't know what an A-frame was. I didn't know what a colonial was. So I'm like, how am I going to say, okay, listen, would you like an A-frame? People look at me like, what the hell is an A-frame? Is that like a stake that holds something up? They don't know what it is. So, I mean, being able to actually show them, I mean, some people they come up to say, I hate bi-levels. So what about a split level? No, I hate that too. That's the one where the steps go up and down. I'm like, no, it's totally different. So I walk up through, and I've had people actually buy split levels or buy bi-levels because they had a false impression of what it was. So my thing was like, you know what? I'd like to be there with you. I want to see your face light up or your face frown down. And that way I know what you're actually going for and what you like. And then from there, we build on that.
Yeah, I think it's so important, man. And it's, setting that perspective with them before you go show them, because you're going to walk into some that they're like, why are we here? Yeah, right. But if they know why, and it's like, look, hey, man, for me to serve and spoil at the highest possible level, helping you go through this journey, accomplish your goals, look, I need to have crystal clarity on exactly what you want. But equally, I need to know what you don't want and why you don't want it. And this helps both ends of the spectrum, right? So you could still have powerful conversations and turn it into a positive, even if it's something they're turned off with, right?
And the nice thing about that is also, I mean, some of these homes you walk into, they're comical. So you're building that relationship and you're securing that even more. I mean, because you're going to have those lasting memories that have been, paramount for me. I mean, I have some clients that I can attest to that they've sent me 7, 8 referrals just from and this is only the 3-year period. And that's from, just the relationships we built during those time frames. So that hour, I mean, you figure we had that half an hour of the initial bonding. Then we have another hour just joking around, having a good time, looking at different homes, making fun of the things. I mean, I have one house right now that to this day, my clients and I still laugh. We send emojis and stuff back and forth. We walked through and it said, be careful what you touch. 2 old horny people live here.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was like, but it's just something, to this day, she'll never forget it. But they've sent me 2 or 3 referrals in the past year. So like those little moments that we created are something you can't create anywhere else. You're not going to get that, on paper. You're not going to get there by a text message, me sending her. It's genuinely there, us laughing and having a good time, which is what we're creating. We're creating that experience.
Yeah, and this is what I love about the buy side, dude. And again, I'm on the same page with you. I mean, I love listings. I like closing deals, right? But again, when you're thinking long-term business, repeat referral business, and you guys, and this is for you, I watch and listen, like Justino's not talking smack when he's saying, oh, these people have sent me 7 referrals in the last 3 years. When I was with you last time, the day that I asked you to come on stage on that Friday, I think, and you said like that morning 3-hour period that we did, dude, you got like 3 come list me's from like referrals, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever, like just that morning, it was like, you're just blowing up and you're like, dude, like my cell's blowing up with, hey, so you started off Zillow and Facebook heavily. How is your business though transition now today from like, what's the percentage of sphere of influence? Cause I think last time we talked about something, I don't want to misspeak, but something like 80% now. So
yeah, I'd say, and I probably should have pulled the numbers. That would have helped. But I'm working on it now for the end of the year for 2019. But if I had to attest to something, I'd say I'm probably close to 75% SOI referral.
Yeah, that's so dope because it's not even 3 years yet in the business. Yeah, right. And what is the percentage of those that come from buyers versus sellers on the referrals?
I don't know those numbers, but I would say that by and large, the majority are buyers.
Yeah,
and then the ones that are sellers are a lot of sellers that are buying. So I have people that call me and say, hey, listen, you just worked with, my buddy on the street. We're looking to sell our house and we want to buy another place. Yeah. So it's nice because I get to double in those.
Yeah. Love it, dude. So, one thing that we talked about at the alumni was, kind of the art of negotiation, right? And just understanding people and what's important to them. And, and in real estate, it's hard, man. Cause it's like, I think all of us that probably listen to this podcast, like are fans of Grant Cardone, and a lot of his stuff, like I'll listen to his stuff. I'm like, yeah, I get if I was selling Rolex watches or cars or whatever, but like at the end of the day, like we don't have a product to sell than our services, and we're just there to facilitate an experience. And people get emotional, and right? You're not dealing with the buyer, the seller directly. You're dealing with another agent. It's kind of more of coaching people through the process, and such an education element of it. And with all your, you were in law enforcement, a negotiator, and like with all the skill sets you have there, of like what advice would you give or tips can you give us for powerful negotiation for the real estate process, right? Because it all comes down to people, it's objections, right? Like how do I overcome this objection? And typically an objection is a lack of education, right? So kind of walk us through, just like you did at the alumni, with just some, top tips that you would have that we can apply to real estate for those negotiation times.
I would say the biggest thing I've always taken, I do this with my whole life with everything, is don't take anything personally. So many people get caught up with if you get a low offer, or if you get one with a ton of inspections, or if somebody says something you're not a fan of. If you take it personally, now you're going to excite yourself, and then you may say something, or it may come out in a certain way that you don't want it to come out, and then it just goes downhill from there. Maintaining that level keel of talking to people and maintaining that composure and the level of professionalism you should, it's going to change things dramatically. Even if you get a reply to inspection that's absolutely hideous. We've all gotten those where somebody sends you a reply to inspection and it's literally the inspector's report, with a bow tie on it. Like, hey, listen, here you go. Have a nice day. What do I want to say? I want to flip you the bird and get pissed off. But no, that's not what we do. You address and you find out what's going on. Or even on the other side, if you're with a buyer who's freaking out. I mean, I've had buyers call me up like, hey, just, what the hell did you sell me? It's a piece of crap. I just got the inspection report. It's 42 pages long. I'm like, okay, let's have a meeting. And that's when I double down and build into that relationship a little more, where I show them, okay, let's go over the buyer's consultation. Let's see what the issue is. What are your main concerns about this? Because some of the things may be things that are, not even relevant. Some of the things may just be information stuff the inspectors put in. Some of it may be an unfair slope because we're taking 2018 standards and grading them against a house that was built 75 years ago. So there's so much of that they don't know. And even if you gave it to them in a whirlwind on the first buyer's consultation, they forgot it all anyway. So by being able to, keep level keen, understand the process, and, just keep going through the tides. Don't worry about the fact that we're at 14-foot waves. There's nothing you can do. You're in the middle of it. You're in the middle of the trenches. You got to keep going straight. So it's maintaining that composure that has definitely helped me significantly. Keep a lot of deals together, and then, just effectively just close more deals.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, man, we're paid to be the unemotional professional to guide them through the process. And I think it's one thing that's easy to forget when we're real estate agents, when, at the end of the day, it becomes four walls and a roof to us, right? But even when you're a realtor and like when you go buy your own homes, like even with our experience, like we still get emotional, and it's like dealing in realities. Understand, man, it's an emotional process. And people deserve, when they're buying the biggest assets or selling the biggest assets of their life, like they deserve to get emotional, right? It's like, hey, man, let them feel that emotion, right? And then go into that education mode, like you said, because dude, you're not selling anything. You're not like trying to talk them into doing something or some manipulation tactic. You're just educating them. You're just finding out what their concerns and just educate them and guiding them, right?
Yeah, because I mean, a big thing that comes up often, being here in the Northeast, chimney liners and because of boilers and stuff like that. And so many people see it and they're like, oh my God, chimney, I can't heat my house. They freak out. It's a liner for a couple $100 you get to put in, depending on what type of system it is. So, I mean, that's something we could easily keep the deal together with having either seller repair or mixing it half and half, whatever it may be. But some people see that and they just freak out. Or brick point, or things that can be simple things that can be fixed. But most people just don't see that. And a lot of people don't have contractors they work with. Fortunately for me, I do a lot of flipping, I do a lot of investing. So I have contractors, electricians, and plumbers that I can reach out to that are great professionals in the industry that I call up and, okay, listen, this is what I got going on. What do you think about this? Oh, yeah, no, let's fix that. $600 or whatever it may be. So being able to be that resource as well for my clients now. So not only have I been able to be their professional, and guide them through this and become a friend, but now when they need something like this and it comes out, I'm a resource as well. So it just creates that much more value in me for them.
Yeah.
Which obviously is what we're doing. We're creating that value to the client.
Yeah. No, I love it, dude. So then, you go out there, you deliver this amazing service, you have this great connection, but still at the end of the day, man, if you don't keep that, it's still the ongoing, keeping that connection alive, right? Like out of sight, out of mind. You might deliver the most brilliant experience, but if they don't hear from you in 7 years, they're probably still going to forget your name. And like, who was that great realtor that we worked with, right? So can you kind of walk us through with your past clients? What do you do to stay in touch? Is it, connecting on social media, or do you have a follow-up strategy? Like, kind of walk us through what you do because dude, like you are slaying it on the referral side. I mean, it's insane, right? In 3 years, 75%. That's crazy.
Been very fortunate. So a lot of what I've been doing is started off with a lot of your stuff. So initially with Facebook, for me, I barely had a Facebook. As being a police officer, there's the myth that you don't want anyone to track you down. You want anyone to find you. So everything was super like, in the corner, cognito. Flip became a realtor. I'm like, okay, hey, I'm here. Look at who I am. It was a complete 180-degree switch. That being said, though, I started doing the 4 posts in the day. I started connecting with everyone. I went from literally having 8 friends on Facebook to now almost 2,500 friends in 3 years. And that's just reaching out to people, reaching out to their people's people, and just building those networks and those relationships. And so by doing the post, and then the other thing that I do is I don't just leave it at just, hey, you're looking to buy a house? Give me a call. I go beyond that. I actually I narrate my life. I create stories. I have people see, if I'm doing inspections and, it was one day that I had to bring my son with me, I threw him underneath the sink and took a picture. It was pretty cool. People love it. They see it. It makes you more than just a salesperson. And that's what we have to do. We have to relate to them and stay in front of them. one of the things that I'm doing now that I just started was, I just bought a bunch of cutting boards that have my logo on the back of it. It has my logo and just has a little saying that my wife came up with. So as I'm driving around, I have a box in the back of my car. I'm just dropping them on their front step. And then I'm getting people sending me pictures, posting on Instagram or whatever. So those little things like that are getting me to continue and just stay front of mind with them. I'm only into my third year now. So now is when I want to keep that repetition and start doing that. So that's why I'm looking for different activities. But prior to that, it was just literally, I still text almost all my clients, shoot them comments, messages, when they have an anniversary, I mentioned to them that, happy anniversary, that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of that goes into it that just helps me, just double down on it.
Yep. Love it, dude, man. So, not too long ago. I mean, it hasn't been, how long has it been, man, since you retired from the police department?
July. I resigned in July.
Okay. So, that's 6 months roughly, yeah. Right? By the time this release will probably be, this will be released right before January 1st, right? So, yep. So 6 months, and now, dude, because like you're getting the point now where, just by, I know you've got some admin help now, but it's still the only producing agent. You're busting the 100 deal count and doing some massive numbers. Like dude, I will be, I don't want to say I'll be shocked if you don't, like, I don't want to,
set the standard high for me. Set the standard high for me.
Like, dude, like what I see, like, dude, I'm fully confident you'll be at 100 million production team within 5 years of being in the business, man. It's just, like you're able to do what takes most top producers a decade to do in half the time, right? Which is awesome to see. So kind of walk us through. So you now have 2 assistants. And what I love about this is so many agents get busy and they're like, man, I got all these buyers, I got all these clients. They start hiring agents, right? Without loading up the admin team and delegating out the non-money making activities. So you've now got somebody that handles the transactions, like listing input transactions, and you have a personal assistant. Also, a little bit of business stuff, but also personal stuff. Can you kind of walk us through, what those roles look like and what their focus is and what your focus is?
So, to much include into one of the days that I was in Arizona with you at the mastermind, I sat down and I started just looking over everything I got going on. And I was like, okay, how does this make sense? Where am I wasting too much time? What are the things that I have the resources to do and I could kind of dictate how I'd like them done, but still be able to effectively not have to do them. So my Facebook posts, some of my CRM inputs, my transaction to close paperwork, taking my car to get an oil change. I was like, okay, so I had all these little things. I literally just did a checklist, a ton of things. And I literally ended up with like 3 pages. I'm like, why the hell am I doing all this stuff? It makes no sense. So I took a role similar to what you did, where I now have a personal admin and I have someone I consider my executive assistant. Is kind of the way I did it. The personal assistant takes care of a lot of things in my house. So she does some basic inputting on some financials that I have. But outside of that, she's going to help me, do my laundry. She takes care of, getting my car with the oil change. She picks up my signs for me. A bunch of miscellaneous stuff that, it's just A to B stuff. That way she can get it done and keep going. Now I have my other executive assistant that's going to help kind of start moving the business forward. So she's going to take care of my transaction and close stuff. She's going to take care of my Facebook posts. She's going to take care of my syndication. She's going to take care of some of my photography, my listing input, my measurements of the properties. So while I'm there, I continue to do what I do well and what's important to do, what's important to me to do, which is engage with the client. So while they're doing the listing, she could be taking the measurements of the room while I'm there still talking to the client and building that relationship, which is what we're there for. We're there to build that relationship and facilitate that experience. They don't want to talk to the back of my head while I'm there with the tape measure, measuring rooms.
No.
So by being able to do that, it now allows me to employ 2 people, but it frees up almost 80 hours a week of what tasks that I'm doing.
Yeah.
And that's going to allow me just to focus on what's important to me right now, which is additional lead generation, obviously the leveraging, which I'm doing right now, and then trying to get more listings. So it's leads, listings, and leverage. So that's literally, I take that and I focus that on my money-making activities.
Yeah. Yep, love it, dude. And the cool thing is, like, we had this conversation before we hit the record button, but with technology the way it is today, like Trello is free, and that's what you use to manage and track and assign tasks, and can manage it from your phone, your computer, right? You're just gonna like walk us through like what that looks like. Like, how do you like for your personal, like, are you just assigning out tasks every day on that Trello board and they just complete them on a day and save them with your assistant?
Exactly. So because I run so many, and that's the reason why I went with Trello, because I'm running so many different things between my flips, my rentals, and my real estate transactions. I mean, I'm running essentially 3 separate businesses right now. But by using Trello, I literally have my CEO board that I use. And as I'm going through things that pop in my head, I just put everything in there as a task. I create a card, create a card, create a card, create a card. And then what I do is, as I'm going through, I look at the stuff there that's important, thing that I need to create a system for, that's recurrent or whatever it may be. Then I modify it to meet whatever that system should be. So if I have a Google Sheet that I need to attach to or whatever it may be, I create that, modify it, make it the way I need to make it, and then add it to that person's board. Whether it's my plumber, whether it's my electrician, whether it's the task that these 2 assistants have to help me with. It now allows me, and then I set the recurrent on. I set the recurrent on or anything else that has to happen. And then allows, me to manage and see it. And then boom, I can see when they approve it, when they don't approve it. We can do the notes on the side. So it's a way of me talking and communicating with them without getting lost in 55 text messages on 3 different, dialogues. So I needed one platform that allows me to manage that all. So that's essentially my desktop when I start up in the day. I get up in the day, I turn on Trello, I see what's going on. I see, okay, I got this guy over here, I got that guy over there. I have this assistant who's going to go do this for me. I have this one who's going to take care of that for me. And this is all new, so I'm still growing this as we speak. Literally, this is implementing as of yesterday. I've had Trello for about 2 weeks now, building it out, but I've just started literally putting it in place, as we speak.
Yeah,
I see it being huge for me.
Yeah, Trello and Google Drive, man, and both free, dude. I live and die by them, man. So, all right, dude. So, and my suggestion to the hiring path, right? It's like, and this is something that most agents just don't understand because they don't think about time, right? So, my suggestion is always, okay, outsource personal household activities first. Yeah, right. So, like, once money's coming in, obviously, right? But it's like, okay, delegate out your landscaping, washing your car, getting your pool clean, all that BS, house cleaning, all that stuff. Because people don't realize how much, dude, it's so easy to suck up 20 hours a week on just doing housework and whatever, right? And I'm like, dude, if you're banking $100,000 a year as a real estate agent, you should not be washing your damn car. You got to know what your cost per hour is. And that stuff is so much cheaper to delegate out, than hiring an assistant in your business, right? Then from there, right, that'll gain you an extra, 10, 20 hours a week in the office. Yeah, right. Then from there, it's, hiring out the personal assistant that's cross-trained in the transaction stuff. And then, when you get to your production, once you get to, 5 to 8 transactions a month, it's like then bring on that full-time person that's just like you've done that model and that path. Right. But I'm bringing this up, like this is all shit, and that you've done, executed on perfectly, man. And you guys, just so you know, I did it all wrong, right? I mean, I got lucky by some right hires, but this is the strategy that I wish to God I followed, knowing what I know now that I do, right? I built it the wrong way, a lot of this stuff, right? So, but with this, it's because people hear you this next year, you'll blow 20 million, gross volume sales out of the water as a single producing agent. Yeah, you got assistants, you got admin, but you don't have a mega team with, 30 some full-time agents like I do, right? But it's dude, this is how you guys that are watching, listening, go out there and do 20 million in production. Because here's the thing, next year, my goal is 1,000 transactions, right? For next year, right? But my guess is you'll probably end up netting about the same as I will, right? Even though, I have the 60,000 of expenses and, right? But so this is how as an agent in production, if you want to keep high profit margins, right? They can go out there and do that, but be efficient with your time and still have a life, right? Because I'm guessing now that you're doing the police department, that you applied all these things, you're more probably present now than you've been able to really ever been with your kids and your wife and, right? Because it's dude, on your deathbed, you're not going to be oh man, I wish to God I would have done more loads of laundry. But you're going to be man, I wish I would have played more, games of Monopoly with my son when he was young. Right?
100%.
Right?
100%.
It's hey, let's eat our meal. You can leave the dishes and have the, house assistant take care of those in the morning and invest that 2 hours with quality time with your kids and being so intentional with your time. So just kind of talk to us of, now that you resigned from the department and you're over here, carrying this intention over that you have, how has this impacted your life, dude?
Well, what it's allowed me to do is, and honestly, once again, I'm going back. The alumni we just had in October was literally, it was so eye opening, especially listening to Leo talk. And I can't pronounce the last time. I think it's Pareja or Pareja.
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 Leo's he's a busy dude. He's going. But one of the things he mentioned was that, he delegates everything out. So when he comes home, that's the time with him and his family. He doesn't want to come home and do laundry. He doesn't want to come home and go food shopping. So I took that. I'm like, I have to implement the same thing. So like my goal now is I've delegated those 80 hours a week now. So I'm still going to go out and grind. I'm still out there, my day is not a conventional real estate agent's day because I'm running from my rental properties that I'm checking up on to a couple flips. Like right now I'm running 9 different jobs at one time. So I'm checking up on the flips, and then I'm dealing with my buyers, clients, my listings that I have going on. So that runs me through the better part of the day. But when I get home, that now has become my family time. It was time that I was losing, time that I wasn't getting. And that's what I've been fighting. That's what I had to fight back for. But because I took your training, because a lot of what you taught me was, lead by revenue. I didn't want to lead by just, hiring people and spending the money because it's money. I didn't want to have to hire someone and a month later say, listen, I got to let you off, or hire someone and say, listen, okay, we're good for 3 months, take the Christmas off and then come back next year. I wanted to make sure that, it was something I could sustain that made sense. And that's why now putting these 2 people in place are just going to allow me to just dominate next year.
Yeah. Yeah, because you think about this, you got 80 hours of non-money making activities delegated out a week. But that's not counting landscaper and like all that shit too. So you probably closer to like maybe 100 hours a week delegated out. Because we only have 168 hours in a week, right? So, but then you can go out there and grind 80 hours a week on money-making activities, managing your investments and doing all of that. Yeah, right? Still sleep, like finally get some sleep in your life and still probably have 40 plus hours left over for your family. Exactly. Yeah, right? And do the shit that matters, man. It's when people really focus on time and not wasting it, man, it's like nobody has a time management issue. I mean, you did, right? You're the only person that I will ever let get away with telling me that, that time management was an issue because that was the extreme, right? But, for most of us that don't go through what you went through, like, it's just fucking choice management, man.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it was huge. And like a lot of people question how I was able to do what I did. I didn't have a choice. I knew what I wanted to get to. I knew my why. I knew what was important to me. And I knew that I wasn't going to stop. So literally it took, and people joke about it and they say, well, how was it even possible? I grinded out 120-hour weeks nonstop for 4.5, 5 years. I mean, that's what it takes to get to where you're doing $15 million as a single agent. That's what it takes to have, a portfolio of investment property. That's what it takes to do, 20 flips a year. That's all stuff that it takes, but it didn't happen overnight. But I also didn't have, a silver spoon given to me either. You got to grind out. You got to put yourself around people that are important, such as like Joshua Smith. I mean, your training, boot camp, everything has been just paramount for my success. I mean, it definitely gave me a platform to fall into. But then just the master alumni that we were in, I mean, the group of the people we're talking to and, the bouncing ideas. I mean, Brian Kinsley, a bunch of the other guys that we bounce back and forth on. It's such a group of people that, it goes back to the other saying where, if you're the smartest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room. I mean, there's so many people with a wealth of knowledge in the group that we have together. It's become an extended family that's just been, it's invaluable.
Yeah. Yep. Couldn't agree more, man. Love it, dude. So then, and I know we're going long on time, but just a couple last things that I want to hit on with you. Dude, when you were going through the 120-hour work weeks, right? And I can't say I can, like I hate when people are like, oh yeah, I've been in your shoes. Like nobody's walked in anybody else's shoes, right? Mm-hmm. Like, right? So, like this year has been the hardest year of my life from a grind aspect, and just it's I've had a lot of just challenges, right? Where it's like 60% of the time, dude, I'm pulling all nighters, and I mean it's getting better now. We've transitioned a lot, but it was rough, dude, right? And and it's challenging, man, right? Because it's like I can't even think about anything else other than all I want to do is freaking take a nap. Yeah, right. But you still just show up, you do the work, and you do the grind anyway. But then it's more than that, right? Because then you have, the guilt of not being there with your kids and your wife. And then you have the pressure. Maybe it's different. My wife is like, she always says, hey, I will never apologize for wanting to spend time with you. She's like, so I will always give you shit for like not spending time with me. And she's like, and I'm not going to apologize for it. She's like, I want to spend time with you. And she's like, if you don't like it, fucking suck it up. You know, right? And so then I've got that pressure, you know, of already knowing in the guilt, but then that pressure of that. Now, of course, we have that long-term vision. We know what that payoff is going to be, so we keep pushing forward with it. But most people break, you know, right? And that's what differentiates. Like if I were to break down uber successful self-made people, you know, right? Me, self-made, like nobody's self-made. Like we all have mentors, coaches, and things that we do, and people that support us through the way. But I mean, like, dude like you that came from nothing, you know, right? And you've went out there and like from sheer grind and will, like you've created, like, I mean, real wealth. You're not just a dude that goes out there and makes $500,000 a year. Like you have assets, like you have true wealth. You're building true wealth. You know, so we have that long-term vision, but anyway, it's like people like that. Like if they had one superpower, it's the ability to endure more pain than anybody else without stopping. That's what it all boils down to. It's like, at the end of the day, like, dude, like we talked a lot about your training the police department. Dude, I guarantee, now it's all theory, but if you didn't have that experience, you'd still be as successful. Like, look at your flips. Like, dude, it's because you're intentional, you're a student of the game, and you know what the hell you want, and you're willing to stick with it until you get the results, right? So, and then continue sticking with it. So, but with that being said, man, I mean, it's tough. And this is why I love that you're being so transparent, because so many of our listeners are you know, going through their own shit in their own journeys, right? Of like, how do you keep pushing in those moments, dude? Yeah, right? Because you got your police department yelling at you and essentially accusing you of stealing, like their time. You know, right? You're sleep deprived as hell. You got all these stressors going on from all this different place, plus probably the, you know, guilt from like whatever. Like, how do you keep just fucking pushing and not stop in those moments?
It was my why. I mean, it's my family and the fact of knowing where I came from. You know, as we mentioned before, I try to be. I'm a humble guy. Like I said, I'm not the brag. I'm not flashy. That was never the reason why I do it. The reason why I do anything that I do, but it's knowing where I came from and knowing what I didn't have. I mean, my first job was at 12 years old. I remember walking to school sometimes with holes in my sneakers, you know, because I had literally nothing. Growing up, you know, it was literally 8 of us in a 3-bedroom apartment of just 8 siblings, not including the parents and my grandparents that were in the house. So I knew what it was to have nothing. And I vowed to myself since I was 12 years old and got my first job that I'd never be in that position again, nor would I ever let my family be in that position. So literally my strive every day is to make sure that, you know, my kids never have to even think about what I grew up in, because it wasn't fair. It wasn't fair to me. It wasn't fair to anyone. But, you know, by striving, by pushing and understanding that, you know, the time's going to pass. And I heard this from a very, very prominent doctor in the area who my wife used to work for back in the day. And I was back and forth on what I wanted to do. And this is before real estate even came to mind. And he was like, whatever you're going to do, just make sure it's what you want to do, because the time's going to pass. So my wife was thinking back and forth about going to nursing school. At that point, she was just like an assistant in his office. And she was like, yeah, but it's like 4 years of school, this, that, and the other. He goes, well, guess what? You're going to be 26 at some point. Do you want to be 26 with the degree, or do you want to be 26 still working for me, making, you know, half what you make it now? And, you know, I've taken that philosophy. I mean, the time's going to pass. I knew 5 years ago when I started the department I was at, that 5 years from now is going to come. Where am I going to be 5 years? Do I want to have, you know, a portfolio of properties and have flips in my belt and have all this other stuff? Or do I want to just be there and be like, okay, well, here's the 15 more years of the career. Hopefully my pension's done soon. And, you know, cheers. And I didn't want that. I didn't want that because knowing where I came from, knowing what was possible, it was not fair to my family. Knowing what I have to had not taken that advantage and that opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it, man. Deep stuff. I appreciate you sharing that, dude. All right. So the last question, well, I got two questions, two last
No
questions.
worries.
So, you know, cause you know, you talked about with your upbringing and, you know, 8 siblings plus your parents, plus grandparents in a small apartment and, you know, right. Now I didn't have it near like that, but, you know, like I didn't ever like grow up around money and like when I first got a taste of money, I was like, oh hell yes. Yeah, right. Like I didn't have the investment plan, and I spent every cent I was making. Right. But you obviously are creating wealth, and it took me a lot of years and a lot of pain, right, to realize, man, I've got to do something with this money and be smarter and strategic with it. Can you talk a little bit about that, man? Because it's like real estate agents are the first ones. They go out there and close a big deal, have a big month to go to Vegas and book the trip or buy the Mercedes. And, right. And at the end of the day, the client's not, you're not going to sell more real estate in a Mercedes compared to a Kia, right? Like it doesn't really matter, right? But staying disciplined to a wealth plan. But in order to do that, like you got all this money coming in, more money than, you rewind the clock probably 20 years than you would ever fathom. You probably make more money in a month right now than you would ever fathom making in a year at that point. So then, I'm sure there's also the urges from that to like go out there and be lavish with it, but staying strict to that wealth plan, living frugally with it. But obviously it's paying off huge now.
Sure.
Right? But can you just elaborate a little bit on just money and the mindset of us as real estate agents? Because there is no pension. There is like, this is it. Like one day you are going to take your real estate license down and it's fucking over. Right. So how are you going to have future wealth?
Well, that was fun. Well, funny thing you actually made that just last comment was it was scary thinking about leaving law enforcement, because I got into that because I wanted that security because I saw the mortgage crash and then I was without a job for a short period of time. And I freaked out. I was too young to build a business. I didn't know networking. I didn't know anything. I was like, what the hell am I going to do? So I was like, please, safe government job. I'm good. I'll get a paycheck every day for the rest of my life. I'm happy. When I decided to leave in July, I gave my 2-week notice. August was my best month in real estate. I made $5,000 more than I would have made all year as a cop, which was just insane for me to even fathom that. So the fact that you said, you're more than a month, hands down, in a month, I made more than I made all year as a cop. That being said, though, I knew that there's always going to be ups and downs. I've studied, I've listened, I've watched podcasts, I've read books. I've read, gone back into historical times of what happens in the market. And I didn't want to be a statistic of the agents that are 50, 60, 80, 100 years old still selling homes because they weren't smart enough. I've gone to different offices where I'm doing closings at, and I've seen some of the agents that, are barely making ends meet. I see all these ads of people trying to give you commission advances. And I'm like, okay, why is this? Does this make sense? And then I started identifying that there is a cycle that goes up and down. In addition to the cycle that goes up and down, there's also people that don't save money. They spend it, they splurge it. So I had to find a way that I was able to make that last longer. So by seeing what I started out was investments, I was like, okay, so if I take this vehicle to power this vehicle, so I took the sales to power my investment. Now it has allowed me to give me an income that's going to last well beyond me. It's going to go beyond me, pay for my kids' colleges, pay for them to go to school, and just I'm going to continue growing that, that's my end goal. My end goal is to get to 100 plus portfolio property.
Yeah. So I don't know if you've read Phil Knight's book Shoe Dog. If you haven't, dude, like it's. I mean, that book made me cry like 6 times. I never cry, like unless I crush a fifth of vodka or some shit. Yeah, Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. So he's the co-founder of Nike, and cool thing about the book is it's the first 20 years of the inception of Nike before they went public. So it's all about the pains and struggles, right? But at the end of the book, he makes a comment. He says, "Look, the reality is money changes us as people. Then it's our mission as people to not allow the money to change us." Right? And he talks about what I loved about him is most people are like, oh, I don't have any regrets and da da da. And he's like, dude, everything is regret. If I could do it all over again, I would fucking do it all over and do it differently. Like he's so raw in that book, and I think entrepreneurs will get it. Like my wife is like seeing me like listen to the book and get emotional. She's like, what? Right? But like, when you go through those struggles and that pain,
sure,
that's what the whole book is about, and the triumphs that they had to overcome. And but with that, you said numerous times in this podcast of remembering where you came from, right? Because I think it's dude, it's a lot of people, man. Like we see it happen, man. They get a little taste of money, they get arrogant, they start, thinking they're superior, whatever. How do you remember where you came from? It's like know where you're going, but never forget where you came from to keep yourself grounded? And, you know, like how do you do that?
It's tough. I mean, I don't know. It's just that's a tough thing to pinpoint. I've been doing a lot of reflecting lately. You know, I actually just went to a Tony Robbins seminar. You know, just Unleash the Power Within, and you know, just a lot of reflecting and just thinking. You know, because it's tough when you have this kind of money coming in and the waves that is coming in. I mean, it could make or break you in a second. You can do all kinds of crazy things, and I've seen that, not necessarily for myself or that perspective, but just being that I'm around so many different agents on all different levels. I mean, there's some that are really great, some that are really bad, and then there's some that are, you know, still in the industry because they didn't balance themselves. So by seeing all that, and it just took a lot of reflecting, a lot of books, a lot of personal thoughts. You know, I follow you with a podcast. You know, I don't really listen to music in the car. Everything I do is podcast, or if not a podcast, is another book. And it's just a constant growth that allows me to kind of keep my humility there.
Yeah, I love it, dude, man. It's and again, it's so important, man. I mean, unfortunately, you know, I'm okay with being the bad example and letting others learn from it, but I did lose myself, right? Like I got to the point where, like, dude, I was just a total dick to my wife. Like I'm shocked sometimes that she's with me, and not like in a, you know, like more of a, like I'm working, I'm grinding, and she was showing concerns. I'm like, look at everything I get you, girl. Like you're just not, you turn into a princess. Like that was my attitude. It was just like, you know, it's like, fuck you. I don't care. Like, this is what I'm doing. And you know, like I got a big head, if you will, ego.
Sure.
You know, at the end of the day, like she's the only person that's ever stood by me through the low moments, whatever. So like, she always saw the greatness in me, right? When nobody else did. You know, in my worst times, which she could have ditched me and found somebody 10 times better. But then the second, like, I achieved the greatness she's always saw in me, then I start shitting on her. Like now I fucking hate myself for it. I'm like, you know, I got a lot of making up to do, you know, right? But that shit's so easy to do if you don't stay grounded. And you know, that's why I just asked that question, because I think that people don't, like, look, when you don't have money, you got money problems. When you have money, you got other types of money problems. And,
sure,
you know, if you're not intentional with this, man, and one thing you keep saying over and over and over through all this is, you know, man, I read, you know, I do my research. Like, you're just such a great student to really solve the problems, I guess, before maybe they happen. Right. Yeah. Right. Which I think is important for people to take away.
I mean, everything is so readily accessible. I mean, there's no reason not to be. I mean, whenever you become that fool that thinks you know it all, then that's exactly what you're that fool. I mean, there's so many people that do things at such great levels. There's no reason to not, you know, leech onto them and get that information. I mean, and I know you mentioned it before, but I mean, your story about the whole credit card debt and over leveraging yourself and everything and the ups and downs that you went through. I mean, that's another thing that scared me. I'm like, listen, I don't want to be there.
Yeah.
You know, I want to make sure I do this correctly. And if I have someone that, you know, that's willing to let me model some of the things that he's done and learn from his expenses, I'm like, hey, listen, I'll take it all day long. I appreciate it. You know, and that's helped me position myself. And by seeing those real bad examples has allowed me to say, okay, there has to be a good, there's always going to be back and forth, but where exactly do I benefit from? And how do I position myself? You know, every decision is not going to be correct. But how do I position myself in at least a tactical manner that I can attack it if it did, you know, go negative for a short period of time?
Yeah. Yep. Love it. You know, there's a proverb out there that says it's smart to learn from your own mistakes, but the smartest way to learn is from others' mistakes. Right. And there's enough bad examples out there that we can all learn from, you know, right. So I love it, dude. All right. So I end every podcast with this question, which is knowing everything you know now. Now, I usually ask the question of when you got into real estate, but I'm going to let you go back to any time. So maybe it's 18 or 16 when you, you know, got done with high school or whatever. Like, if you could go back knowing everything you know now and go to any period of your life and talk to the younger version of yourself and give yourself 2 pieces of advice that you feel would have just fast forward and your trajectory to success, knowing everything you know now today, what would that look like?
I would say don't quit. That would be number one. So when I got into the mortgage industry, I would say don't quit, because I'm sure there were all hurdles and there were negative parts that I didn't see of the industry, not being familiar with and not being involved. But the quitting is something that I wasn't proud of. And outside of that, I would say just make more time for the family. That's huge. I mean, as busy as I have been, I mean, very similar to you, there's been many times where I'm just gone for, a week, and then I pop back up. I'm always like, oh, I still have a husband. Hi, how are you? So, I think those two things is what I'm working on heavily right now. And that's what my goal, not to quit, keep pushing through, keep building the relationships that I've been doing. And there's no reason why I couldn't do it at 21, but it was on my own self-doubt. That's all it was. I mean, all these people that I'm working with now, the majority of them were all in my life back then. So they were all people that I could have either built on and worked off from there. But it was just, my own insecurities at being so young. And it was easier for me to quit and, take stability. But it's not in my blood. I can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it, man. So those that are watching and listening, dude, that if they want to follow you, get in touch with you, maybe they got a referral for your marketplace, and you guys, everybody, like all of you that are listening to this right now, like Justino said, he's got 2,500 Facebook friends. Like with his podcast release, like he better be maxed out of 5,000 from all you guys. Like this is a dude that you guys need to follow. Like this is a guy that, like, I love it, man. Like you jump in the program. I think it's so amazing when like the mentor becomes the mentee, right? Like now I'm looking at you, like,
I appreciate
so much from you and I look at you as a mentor right now, and dude, like what you're doing just blows my mind, and just so many different ways, man. Just not just real estate, man. You're just one amazing, impressive ass dude, man. And so everybody that's watching, like, you better be following this guy and watch what he's doing, because we've all got so much to learn from you. So where's the best place to do that? Like, where are you at in social media or website?
Yeah, so I mean, the website I use is the Perfect Storm website. First of all, I appreciate the comments. I mean, it's unwarranted, but very much appreciated. But the one website is obviously Sold by Justino, which is my Perfect Storm site. But if they want to catch me on Instagram, they can just go Sold by Justino. You'll find me there as well. And then on Facebook, just search me, Justino Royal Realtor, and it'll come right up.
Yeah. Awesome. You guys know that I watch one of those right below to make it super easy on you. So I end every podcast with this, but information without implementation is truly just the start of delusion. Information is a power. It's taking that information, taking massive action on it, as Justino, you just witnessed that he did for years and years and years, to go out there and still doing, right? To build this amazing success and build all this wealth that he's been able to create. So it takes something that you learned. Justino shared so many bombs on you guys. Like this is like, you guys paying $1 million for this podcast. Like there's millions in this with what he shared. So take something you learned, take immediate action on it, so you can go out there and create the life that you know you want and truly deserve. And Justino, man, this has been a massive honor, man.
No, the honor's all mine.
Long on time, dude. So I hope I didn't hinder you, but this has been awesome. I truly appreciate it, brother.
No, thank you very much.
Yeah, 100%, my friend. All right, you guys, thanks for watching. Listen, we'll see you next time.